I'm so excited today to have Edwin Carrion on the podcast. Edwin, the self-described God-made millionaire, was born in Quito, Ecuador, raised by a single mother in a humble home. He migrated to the United States at the young age of 12 and currently lives in Miami, Florida. He's a loyal husband, a proud father of two beautiful girls, a U.S. Marine, an entrepreneur, an investor, and a mentor. He's the owner and co-founder of several multi-million-dollar companies that specialize in the acquisition and real estate development, transportation and logistics, investment, business, education, consulting. I could keep going. His specialty and passion is teaching motivated individuals his secrets, techniques, and proven strategies that will create wealth in any business you choose. And as a result of that, achieving financial freedom and living life to the fullest. Edwin, I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for being on the show.
Hey, Dr. Williams, thank you for having me here. And to everybody listening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever part of the world you're in. Get ready for an exciting show.
It's going to be fantastic.
Welcome to Catalytic Leadership, the podcast designed to help leaders intentionally grow and thrive. Here is your host, author, and leadership and executive coach, Dr. William Attaway.
Edwin, I want to start with your story. I'd love for you to share just a little bit of your story with our listeners, particularly around your journey and your development as a leader. How did you get started?
Born in Quito, Ecuador, raised by a single mother, came to the United States when I was 12 years old from a very humble beginnings. And one of the things that I always wanted to be a successful person, especially when you come from humble beginnings. So how did my leadership skills turn out to be? I think since I was very young, I was a leader. I was not a follower. I was always trying to be a leader, telling people what to do, especially because I am the oldest of three right now. Growing up with my little brother, I was always telling him what to do. So that's when you start developing those leadership skills, right?
That's right. Me too.
So from there, I was very fortunate enough that at 19 years old, I went into the Marine Corps, and that really developed my leadership skills into what turns out to be today a successful entrepreneur, leading multiple companies, having a lot of employees, and being able to be not only a leader, but an actual good leader that people do because they want to do things for you, not because you ask them to do things for you.
That's so good. So, you have gone through a number of different iterations of you, right, in your journey. Like
Yes.
So many different elements of your story. And I firmly believe there's no such thing as a wasted experience. What are some of the mistakes that you made in your leadership journey as you were growing and going?
Yeah, I think mistakes I continue making mistakes every single day. I think we all make mistakes in our lives, and that's one of the things that I always say we have to be proud of those mistakes, especially if we're learning from those mistakes. If we continue making the same mistakes over and over again, then there's no benefit to us. But I think to me, on my side, my mistakes has always been a blessing and a learning experience for me. So my first biggest mistake was when I got arrested when I was 19 years old. I was hanging around with the wrong crowd, trying to be the cool kid, and sure enough, trying to steal some rims. Got arrested, came back home. So the blessing that came out from that's the moment that I came home. I got on my knees and I said, God, please forgive me. I'm never going to do this again. I'm going to change my life, be the best person that I is. That day is when I felt God like standing right next to me, when I had that divine intervention.
Yeah.
And from that day forward, I could tell you that my life has been a complete blessing. Yes, it's been a roller coaster with ups and downs, but pretty much I have gotten everything that I wanted in my life because of that. Having that relationship with God and being close to God.
One of the things in our previous conversation that we share is that we are both people of faith, and you are not shy about that. You lead with that as part of who you are. I'm curious, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner in so many different spheres, How does faith intersect what you do?
Well, it's a huge part, and one of the things I like what you just talked about right now, that I'm not afraid of that. And one of the things that I realize, because when I didn't have that strong relationship with God, I wouldn't talk about it. Even though I had a
Mm,
relationship with, I wouldn't talk about God or my beliefs and everything else, because I was afraid of what other people are going to say. But
right.
when we really start um, owning up and standing up for the things that we believe and being the person that we want to be, like in business and in our personal lives,
Mhm.
because we cannot be two different people. I cannot be like this one person here in business and then be totally opposite in my personal life, right? Because that's been a hypocrite. So I had to learn that I need to be the same person in all areas of my life. And
Yeah.
then on top of that, really understanding that because God is an abundant God, God gives us abundance. If I talk about my religion, if I talk about my beliefs, and the people on the business world don't like that, then it's okay, because I don't want to do business with them, because there's
Hmm.
bad consequences that are going to happen. So by me being open to what I really believe in, I'm going to attract like-minded individuals, faith-based individuals, and I'm going to create awesome, great businesses, good relationships, and things are going to work out for the benefit of all of us because of that.
So good. One of the challenges I find with entrepreneurs in my conversations with them is that they have difficulty balancing the different parts of their life. There's this idea that, well, you need to have a work-life balance. And I think that's such a misnomer. How do you navigate this? I mean, like me, you're a husband. Like me, you're a father of two daughters. Like that's not a small commitment, right? How do
No,
you how do you find and navigate that challenge?
yeah. So let's go back a little bit into my history, right? So one of the things that when I left the Marine Corps, I started real estate development, and my goal was always to be rich, to be successful, to have a lot of money. And I had no balance. All I would do was work 60, 70 hours per week, sometimes 80 hours per week, nonstop, because I wanted to be that rich, successful guy. And I got to that point where I became rich and successful. But after 4 years of working hard, nonstop, no balance, no good relationships, no friends, just focusing to making money, I went bankrupt and I lost everything. And at that moment, I realized it's like, hey, like I need to have a balance in my life. I just lost my best years of my life from 22 to 26, when I could have traveled the world. I could have done a lot of things, because when we're young, we have all this energy to take over the world. But to me, my focus was money, and it was the wrong thing to focus on. But at the same time, I realized that I wasted my time because I was so consumed into that, not having the
Hmm.
balance. So I had to like rewire my brain. I had to retrain myself, and I had to figure out, if I want to have a healthy relationship, if I want to be the father that I never had for my kids,
Hmm.
I need to have the balance in my life. And my wife taught me that I needed to set those boundaries. And we need to
Yes.
start setting boundaries in a lot of areas in our lives. But in this case, we're talking about boundaries for how to have a balanced life. And a lot of people are going to tell you you can't be successful if you don't, if you have boundaries, if you have a balanced life. You can't. There is no balance if you want to be successful, and that is true. But it depends. How fast do you want your success? So one of the things that I learned is that we have so many years on Earth. We have over 60 years on Earth, that from 20 to 80, that we could become successful. You have 60
Hmm.
years right there, that if you have a balance in life and enjoy every period of your life, you will become, and you continue, you keep that consistency going, you can be successful, and you will be successful. But it's the same thing if you look at it. If you want to have a good physique, if you want to have a good body and be healthy, if you go to the gym every day, are you going to have a six pack if you go every single day for 10 years? Yes, because now you're taking care of your body, you're working out, you're eating healthy. But can you get the results faster if you work out 2, 3 times a day? Yes, you're going to see the difference. But now you're not having a balance, because all your focus is into working out 2, 3 times a day. So
Yeah.
to me, the hardest part has been learning to have that balance, and understanding that setting those boundaries into my work life has been a huge game changer. And not only that, let's not only talk about work life, right? Let's talk about, when you mentioned we're married. So we
Hmm.
need to understand that as husbands, as fathers, we also need to have that balance between our kids and our relationship, because the moment that our kids grow up and they leave their house, the only two people that are left is going to be your wife and you.
That's
And
right.
you never had that relationship with your wife when the kids were home. Your wife, that's when 90% of the marriages go their own way because they have nothing in common. So one of the things that I did is I also started setting a boundary where every Friday, my wife and I, we have date nights every single Friday. And it's been on the book for the past 3 years now that every Friday, doesn't matter what happens, 5 p.m. we're out that door and it's our time.
Love that. That's so good. What a great rhythm to build into your marriage and into your life and to be intentional about it. I think that's
Yes.
something every listener can take and adopt and say, hey, I'm going to make sure this, if I'm married, this relationship is so important, and to neglect it, well, there's fruit that comes from that decision.
Yes.
So let's talk about what you do in your business. Tell me a little about what you do when you're working with clients, what you do when you're speaking.
Okay. So one of the things that I do, and this started because, again, after reaching certain level of success, one of our main goals, I think, in every human is let's give back. Let's help other people out.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I realized that helping out that doesn't necessarily mean to be financially every time, because when I gave this huge check to my church after I sold one of my businesses, I really wasn't fulfilled. So when I spoke to God, I'm like, God, why am I feeling this way? He's like, I gave you this gift of being successful, of starting a company, growing a business and scaling it and being able to exit them. That what I want you to do is I want you to teach others how to become successful, because that's how you keep a legacy going. The moment you give money, the money is going to be spent and it's going to be gone. But the moment that you teach somebody else to fish, they're going to be able to fish and feed their whole family, and they're going to teach others how to do the same. And that's
That's
how you
right.
create the legacy. So that's when I started really digging down into mentoring and business consulting and helping entrepreneurs scale their business to 8 figures. And one of the things we work based on mindset, because you cannot reach the millions if you don't have a millionaire mindset. You cannot have a multi-million-dollar company if you don't have the right systems, processes, and the right people in place. So these are all things that I work when I work with all my students, the people that I mentor. Is okay, let's see, where do we need to get, where do you want to get, and let's figure out how we're going to get there faster. And very, very happy to tell you that a lot of my students have become very successful because, to me, I put so much passion into it that I make them take action and I push them to the limit because I want them to achieve all the dreams that they had.
I love that. I love the open-handedness that is inherent there, Edwin. I think that is so good, that you're not just going to take what you've learned and use it just for you, but you're
Yeah.
going to share that for the benefit of the people around you.
Yes, no, definitely, and it goes back into what I was saying a minute ago. God gave us abundance in this world, so it doesn't matter if I give you 100%. I can tell you the exact blueprint of how I do things from A to Z. It's okay because you're not taking anything away from me. God
Right.
gave us abundance, and there's going to be a lot more for me. And by me being able to teach you all these things and to help you scale and to help you grow, now I'm going to be able to invest with you, and together now we're continue growing and helping more people out.
A lot of the people listening are in the entrepreneurial space, whether they're agency owners, whether they're entrepreneurs of a different stripe. And one of the questions that I hear from people who look kind of from the outside in at that world is, well, if I had the money, I would start a business. If I had the money, then I would get into that. If I had the money, I would be an entrepreneur. So let me ask you, is that valid? Do you really need money to start a business?
Um, I always say 90% of the time you do need money to start a business,
Mhm.
but the question people don't ask themselves is, do I need to have money to start the business?
Yeah, what a
Right?
great question.
So instead of asking, do I need money to start a business? Do we need money to start the business? They have to ask themselves, do I need money to start the business? And I could tell you from personal experience that my major companies that I started, I had no money. I was
Hmm.
bankrupt. I was in debt, because there is, again, abundance in the world. There's a lot of people out there that have money. And if you're able to pitch them the right business idea, you're able to raise the money that you need to start the business, as long as you're able to fulfill your promise, pay your investors back, and grow a business.
I think that's healthy. And I think it's healthy to remember. And it goes back to that abundance mindset you described.
Yes.
Too many people are operating from a place of scarcity. And the pie is only so big. And if I give some to you, then there's not enough for me, maybe.
Yes,
And
and everybody thinks their idea is the best idea, and and one of the things that I learned with time is that nobody cares about your idea more than you do. So go ahead and
yes.
tell the world. And how we're able to continue growing, how are we able to do something if we're holding back our idea and nobody, and we don't want to tell anybody else what we're doing? How we're able to
Mm,
sell a product if we don't tell anybody else what we have? So one of the things is,
mm,
again, be right open, be upfront, tell everybody, hey, this is what I'm doing. If I start a car wash, this is what I'm doing. I'm washing cars. Because now, if you start putting that out there in the world, people that might need a car wash, they're going to say, hey, this guy's just started doing that. Or maybe your friends, they might not need your services, but the moment somebody tells them, hey, I need to wash my car, be like, oh my God, my friend just started a car wash company. Go to Edwin. He's doing this.
yep. Love that. One of the things that you've talked about is achieving financial freedom. And one of the
Yes.
methods that you talk about to do that, to achieve that goal, is through what you call smart investments.
Yes.
Would you describe that a little bit?
Yeah. At the beginning, when I was younger, my main thing was, again, coming from a humble beginnings, coming from a poor family,
Hmm.
was make money. I want to be rich. I want to have money. And yes,
Hmm.
I got to the point where I had money, but I had to leverage that money. I was leveraging that money so much because I wanted more, meaning that my car wasn't paid for, my houses weren't paid for, everything else wasn't paid for. That the moment that the market crashed or the economy had a downturn, I lost everything and I went bankrupt. And
Hmm.
that's when I lost over $20 million. So then I realized, okay, making money is not hard. Keeping the money is the hard part. So how do we
That's
keep
good.
the money? What do we need to do? And I think is that it's not about making money, but it's achieving that financial freedom.
Yeah.
And when we get to the point where we achieve the financial freedom, and that means, not having to worry about if you get laid off or if your business doesn't work, you're okay for maybe a year, that until you figure out what the next big play is going to be. Your house is paid for. Maybe you have your cars paid for. Maybe you have your college funds kids paid for. So we start thinking about those things. Okay, how do I achieve financial freedom? And the first step to doing that is to start living below your means. So one of the things that I had to do when I went bankrupt, the first thing that I did was, okay, I'm not gonna spend. I was living at one of the houses that I built for low on a low income community, and I was living there. And I started working again, working hard with a new business. We raised $300,000 for a new business. That business started doing very well, and the moment that I was able to buy a car, I'm like, okay, this is the car that I want to buy. I raised enough, I saved enough money, and I bought the car cash. And I knew
Yep.
that doesn't matter what happened, that car was going to be cash, and that car now became an asset
Yes.
versus a liability. Why did it
Yes.
become an asset? Number one, it became an asset because instead of having $30,000 sitting in the bank, I had $30,000 on a car with me that I was driving. I was going places to places. I was networking with people, and I was happy because that was my office at that moment. But I had $30,000 sitting there, and I was enjoying that money. The money wasn't sitting there where I wasn't looking at. I was enjoying that money, and I was enjoying that car. And when I sold it, yeah, maybe I lost $3,000, $4,000, but it was an asset to me. Then I continue saving, still living below my means, not outspending myself, saving money until I bought my dream house, and I bought that one for cash as well. So that's the moment that you realize, okay, now I achieve financial freedom because now I have my house, my car paid for, but also I have investment properties, so I have other investments that give me passive income that are paying for my lifestyle. So now my earned income, I could go out and spend it, and now I could overspend and do all the things that I want and buy the nice cars, the nice watches, the nice shoes, all these things that are depreciating assets, right? Some of the things that are depreciating assets. But then that's when you realize, okay, I achieve financial freedom. But then now you're not worried about when you go to a restaurant, are we looking on the right hand side of the menu? Can I just go and order anything that I want? And you start looking at life that way. in financial freedom. So financial freedom doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have millions of dollars. It means what is it that you want in your life and figure out how can you achieve and get to that point. Now, not when you're 60, not when you're 70, but how can you get to that point now if you're still young, so like that you could enjoy your future.
Type of thinking requires healthy systems. Like that's not just going to happen. You're not going to wake up one day and that's in place. You have to be intentional in crafting systems for growth, right?
Yes, you have to do that. But also, one of the things that have helped me a lot is having the right mentors in my life. And I think a lot of us tend to forget that the most important investment we could ever make in a life is investing in ourselves. As entrepreneurs, we invest in software, we invest in equipment for our businesses, we invest in office space, in staff and employees, but we always tend to forget the most important one, which is ourselves. And the moment that we
Yes.
really start valuing ourselves and investing in ourselves and hiring the right mentors so we could continue growing and we don't make the huge mistakes that I made, that's the moment that things start to change in our life. And that's pretty much where I learned, okay, I need to have financial freedom versus money. I need to make sure that I need to level up. And the way that I'm going to level up is this way. I need to figure out how to raise capital. Okay, this mentor is going to teach me how to raise capital the right way. Okay, I need to learn why am I staying? Why can't I go past that ceiling where my business gets to $1 million and I cannot get to the $5 million? Why? Because I need somebody that has been there and has done that, that is going to tell me the one thing, not the whole process, but
Yes.
he's going to come up with the one thing that is going to change my life. And it could be relationship, it could be something that has been holding me back from my past, it could be something that I'm not doing right in the business, or maybe it could have been the employee that I didn't have the right employee in my office, and he came to tell me, it's like, that's not the right person for you. But it's the one thing that has always changed my life with the mentors that I had in my life.
So important. The people that you invite to speak into your life. It
Yes.
really is. A lot of people who are listening might find themselves entrepreneurs that have found a measure of success. And like you said, they're kind of hitting a ceiling. They're stuck in the 6-figure business range.
Yes.
What's the first step to start moving and breaking through that ceiling from your experience?
From my experience, the first step is always go back to the basics, right? The basics are going to be detrimental into anything that we do. And it goes back into think about construction because I'm a real estate developer as well.
Mm-hmm.
So when I build a house, if I don't have a strong foundation, that house is going to crumble when I finish building it.
Right.
So in business is the same thing. For us to continue growing is we need to have that strong foundation. And that strong foundation starts with the basics. And 90% of entrepreneurs that I talk to, they started their business and they got to the 6 figures, they got to the low 7 figures by hustling because they have that hustler mentality. They don't have the business mentality, they have the hustler mentality. And everything started as a hobby or maybe of an idea that they wanted to do something, or maybe they had expertise in something and they said, okay, let me do this. But the one thing they didn't do is goes back into what a business person will do, which is let's create a business plan to see where do we want to take this business in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, and let's really work on the business versus working in the business. And when we create that basic business plan, now it's going to give us clarity into what we need to do. When we create that basic cash flow sheet, it's going to give us the clarity into what we need to do. When we create that basic sales guide of how we're going to attract the right customers into our business, that's going to change the trajectory of our business and get us to pass those ceilings that we have.
So practical and so useful.
It
I
is.
love that.
And people don't believe it, but it's so practical, like you said.
So your business, your team needs you to lead at a higher level today than you did 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Yes.
And the same thing is going to be true 3, 4, 5 years from now. They're going to need you to lead at a higher level yet. What are you doing to level up with the skills that your team and your business are going to need you to have? How do you stay on top of your game?
I'm doing the same thing that I preach. Everything that I preach, I'm doing it. I'm having the mentors. I'm constantly learning. I'm walking away from my business putting people that are smarter than me so I could learn from them, so I could be a better leader because I know how to lead. But I cannot be a high level leader if I don't have a high level team. So my
That's
team
right.
has to be high level. So my team has to always continue learning, continue improving, continue growing. And if they get stuck below me, then I need to replace that with somebody better, somebody that comes in 10 times better. But then at the same time, my mentors have to be at a level where I want to get to. So if I'm right now, for example, and I'll give you a quick example. Right now, my mentor, their their whole network, his revenues are like 500 million plus, getting close to a billion. The network that I'm hanging around with is billionaires right now with a B. Um, Before I was hanging around with people that were millionaires that were making 100 to 300,000 a year. Now I'm hanging around with people that are making billions. Why? Because that's the level that I'm getting to. That's the projects that I'm doing. So I need to be at that level for me to be able to teach others. How can you get past the ceiling? Times are changing, things are changing. Technology is adapting, evolving so fast that I need to stay on top of that. And if you just
Mm.
stay back of how I used to do things and how things were before, I'm gonna get left behind like a dinosaur.
That's so good and so true. And we have watched plenty of examples of that.
Yes.
Change is not optional, and
No.
growth only happens on the other side of change.
Exactly.
You're a continual learner. You are always in learning mode, whatever environment that you're in. Is there a book that has made a really big difference in your journey that you would
Yes.
recommend to the leaders listening? Man, if you haven't read this, check it out.
Yeah. I think as we start growing, as we continue growing, and you're gonna notice if you guys go on social media right now and look at the top gurus out there right now, you're going to notice that they all talk about faith, right?
Mm,
Because at the end of the day, we all go back and realize and understand that there is a higher power out there. There is, to me, my higher power is God, right? There is a God out there. And we all talk about God. We all talk about how the faith has gotten us to where we are. And to
yes.
me, one of the most important books that I read and I love reading and I love to continue going back and looking at it is this one right here, and it's called Business Secrets from the Bible. And it was written by a rabbi. And the reason I love this book is because it teaches and it talks about how, if we are faith-based entrepreneurs, that it's okay for us to be successful, that it's
Mm,
okay for us to have money, because a lot of us that are faith-based, that believe in God, maybe Catholic, Christians, Jewish, whatever you want, sometimes we have this limiting beliefs that it's not okay to be successful, that it's not okay to be wealthy, that we're going to become greedy, we're going to become this, we're going to become that. But this book really opens up your mind to tell you that God wants you to be successful. God wants you to be
yeah,
ultra successful, because the more successful that you are, the more impact you're going to create on this world.
love that. We'll have a link to that in the show notes.
Yes.
Edwin, if people walk away from this episode with one big idea and you got to decide what that one big idea is, what would you want that to be?
The one big idea. Let me think about one big idea. I don't know if it's a one big idea, but to me, it's like the one big action thing that I always like to tell people is that, we all have ideas and we all have things to do. And the thing that you have to think about today, especially if you stayed until the end of the show, is that think about if you were laying in your deathbed today and you look
Mm,
back at your life, what are you going to say? And there's only two choices that you could say. The first one to you is going to be, I should have done that, I could have done that, I would have done that. Or are you going to say, what an amazing life that I had? I did everything that I wanted to do. There's nothing that I regret. So, pretty much, to me, it's always thinking about that. Now, to
mm,
me, my life is going to be, I did everything I wanted to do. I had a freaking life. I'm ready to go to my next chapter in life. So, that's what I could leave you with today. But also, the other thing that I'm going to leave you, for all of you that stayed until the end, I'm going to give you this awesome gift. And this gift, especially because you told me you have a lot of entrepreneurs here in your show, is I'm gonna give you something that I only give to my paid clients, and it's called my business super stack. And the business super stack, it has what I was telling you about. It has the basics, the business plan template. It has the cash flow sheet. It has the win-win negotiation tactics and so much other things that I put in there that only my paid clients get. So what I want you to do is go to my social media channels if you want that and send me the word podcast 24. So once you go to my social media channels, DM me podcast 24 and I'll send you my business super stack kit. And it's going to help you accelerate your business right away by you getting that gift.
That is so generous. On top of the generosity you've already displayed today, you have been so open and transparent with what you have learned so far in your journey, Edwin. And I know the best is yet to come. And I can't wait to see what's next for you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And thank you for having me here. And to everybody listening, have an awesome day. If you don't know where you're going, you will eventually get there. So figure out where exactly you want to get.
I know folks are going to want to stay connected to you and continue to learn from you. What is the best way for them to find out more about what you do and to connect?
Best way is go to my social media channels, Edwin Carrion 78, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube. In YouTube, I have a lot of good videos, a lot of training videos that you could look at. You could go to my website, edwincarrion.com. But the most important thing is I always tell is that if you have any questions, go ahead and reach out to me. One of the things that one of my mentors taught me, and I love this one dearly, is become an ask hole. Because the more, if you stay with a question hunting you down, you're never going to know the answer. So go ahead and ask. And people like me, they're always going to answer back because we're here to give back, not to hold back.
So good. Edwin, thank you.
My pleasure.
Thanks for joining me for this episode today. As we wrap up, I'd love for you to do two things. First, subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if you find value here, I'd love it if you would rate it and review it. That really does make a difference in helping other people to discover this podcast. Second, if you don't have a copy of my newest book, Catalytic Leadership, I'd love to put a copy in your hands. If you go to catalyticleadershipbook.com, you can get a copy for free. Just pay the shipping so I can get it to you, and we'll get one right out. My goal is to put this into the hands of as many leaders as possible. This book captures principles that I've learned in 20 plus years of coaching leaders in the entrepreneurial space, in business, government, nonprofits, education, and the local church. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn to keep up with what I'm currently learning and thinking about. And if you're ready to take a next step with a coach to help you intentionally grow and thrive as a leader, I'd be honored to help you. Just go to catalyticleadership.net to book a call with me. Stay tuned for our next episode next week. Until then, as always, leaders, choose to be catalytic.
Thanks for listening to Catalytic Leadership with Dr. William Attaway. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss the next episode. Want more? Go to catalyticleadership.net.